Chapter 16. What Might Have Been. In the morning, I ate the last of the jerky. By now, I should have been in the Dos Cabezas Mountains. I was nearly out of food and no more than halfway from the border to La Peraflaca. Somehow, I had to find a shortcut. The map showed a small lake at the foot of the mountains on their western side. A road from the lake led to the other roads and eventually the town of Wilcox. Maybe I will get lucky and catch a ride. A few miles down the canyon, I came across footprints in the mud. Lots of them, and they were fresh. The hikers seemed to be on their way out of the mountains. I guess I was following some Americans until I found a candy wrapper with a Spanish label. It was the first in the fresh stream of trash with labels in Spanish. Did I want to meet a group of mojados or not? Before long, I heard voices. It was Spanish they were speaking. I edged closer and peeked through the brush. The people were on a patch of green grass in the sunlight, some sitting and talking, others on their backs with their heads propped on their backpacks. They were muddy, ragged, and filthy, forced down from the snow like I was, and just as bad off. I counted 17, including 6 women. The presence of the women made me hopeful. I might get some help from this group. I might get some food. It wouldn't hurt to talk to them, or would it? Which was the coyote? It was impossible to tell. I watched and I waited to see what they were going to do next. Time went by, too much time for a rest break. Were they waiting for someone? An hour later, a bow-legged man came shuffling up the trail. He had a mustache and wore a black and red jacket. Chicago Bulls. The group stood up and gathered around to see what he would say. The way he looked at them, as if they were cattle, and the way they looked at him, with distrust, it was easy to see he was their coyote. From a careful distance, I followed as the coyote led them down the trail. After a few miles, they came to a gate in a cattle fence and started down a rough road without tire tracks. I began to think that the mojados were about to be picked up farther down the road. I wondered if I could talk my way into joining them, wherever they were going. I would have to make some kind of deal with the coyote. Maybe he would let me pay after I found work. I was going to owe a whole lot of dollars, maybe as much as Rico's $1,500. They came to a fork in the road. Instead of leading them downhill on the main branch, the coyote turned uphill. I doubted this meant they were about to be picked up. Their coyote led them to a cabin on the mountainside below a boarded-up mine. I crept close to see what this was about. The coyote was showing them that the front door was unlocked. They all started laughing. A woman pointed to a broken window. The coyote seemed to be telling them that he hadn't broken it. Again, laughter. I waited to see what they would do. They went inside and made themselves at home. Before long, some of them came outside, eating from canned goods. I could picture them all going to jail for breaking in and stealing food. I couldn't take the chance. I had to stay on my own, like Miguel. The road led me down to a small lake surrounded by pine trees. Guessing it was the lake on the map, I approached with the stealth of the puma. A man was fishing on the other side. A black pickup was showing between the trees. I tried to imagine walking right up to the fisherman and asking him for a ride to Wilcox or all the way to La Peraflaca. Whether or not I could actually speak to him, he was a gabacho. There would be no doubt in his mind that I was a wet who just sneaked across the border. Why should he help me? I couldn't take the chance. Staying hidden in the trees, I worked my way around to the parking lot. By this time, the fisherman was close to where I had stood when I first spotted him. It looked like he was going to fish his way all around the lake. The fisherman's truck was the only vehicle in the lot. I got an idea. Right behind the cab, a big toolbox spanned the bed of the truck. If the toolbox was unlocked and had room inside, stealthily, I climbed into the back of the pickup, tried the lid of the toolbox, found it open. If I lay on my side with my knees pulled up, there would be room, just barely. I could cushion my head with my pack. I was going to try it, but there was no reason to torture myself before it was necessary. I crept out of the pickup and climbed up the hillside. Through the trees, I kept a sharp eye on the fisherman. He started to catch fish. In the next few hours, he caught 6 or 7, but let them all go, which made no sense. Mid-afternoon, he suddenly quit, grabbed his things, and headed to his truck. Now was the time. I hurried back to the parking lot and climbed into the back of his truck. I lifted one wing of the toolbox lid, rearranged the tools as best I could, spread my blanket across them, placed my pack for a pillow, and climbed inside. My heart was pounding like thunder. It was an extremely tight fit. For once, I was glad I was a head shorter than Rico. I pulled down the lid until it latched. It was only then that I wondered if there was a way to open it from inside. Wildly, I began to feel around for a latch in the pitch dark. Suddenly, I felt like I was buried alive. Without a doubt, this was the stupidest thing I had done in my entire life. Calm down, I told myself, but it wasn't that easy. Here came the man's footsteps. I thought about pounding with my fists or crying out, but I held back, almost hoping he was going to put something in the box. I heard him open the driver door. There was a back seat in the pickup, and that's where he must have put his things. The engine fired, and he was on his way. The Gabacho drove fast on the washboard road, and the pavement full of potholes that came after. I was all cramped up, and the tools under my side felt like spears. At last, I had found the inside latch, put there for little children or grown fools. I only hoped that this crazy risk would pay off. The driver was probably on his way home, wherever that was. When it seemed safe, I would take a peek, then climb out and walk away. What would come after that? I had no idea. The ride and the pain seemed to go on forever. A couple of hours, maybe, long enough to remember the Guatemalans packed into the bottom of the fruit truck. And no, they had it worse. The last part was on smooth pavement. Finally, the truck stopped. I could hear the driver pumping gas and lots of traffic going by. When we started up again, there were 3 stops that lasted a minute or two. Traffic lights? At last, the driver made a sudden turn, put on the brakes, and shut the engine off. It was over. A minute or two with the opening and closing of the truck doors, and all was quiet except for cars going by every so often. It wasn't a busy street. I guess I was in front of the driver's house. Now, it was a matter of waiting, if I could stand the pain, until I felt it was safe enough to take a peek. I never got the chance. I heard footsteps, held my breath. The bed of the truck dipped under his weight. He was climbing in. The lid of the toolbox flew open, and I was looking up into the face of the Gabacho. He was so surprised the cigarette he was smoking fell from his lips. The Gabacho slammed the lid back down. "Pardon me," I cried, but I shouldn't have expected any sympathy. I tried the latch, but by now he was sitting on the lid and had me trapped inside. Before long, he was talking to someone who wasn't there. He had a cell phone, I realized. I couldn't understand a word he was saying. Please, I kept saying, please let me out. I didn't have much longer to wait and wonder. When the lid of the toolbox opened again, it was a green uniform I was looking at. Border Patrol. I was so tied in a knot, so much in pain, the patrolman had to help me climb out of the box. They didn't have to worry about me running down the street. I could barely stand. The migra, whose nameplate said Sandoval, handed me a bottle of water. I drank it down. The Gabacho fisherman said some things. He sounded very angry, as the patrolman put me in handcuffs, which meant I was going to jail. I was a prisoner, stunned and full of shame. I told the fisherman I was sorry for surprising him like that. Sandoval translated. After that, the Gabacho wasn't so angry anymore. The patrolman frisked me. He reached into my pocket for the switchblade. Out with it came the plastic picture card of the Virgin. I'll put this in your backpack, he said, almost like he was apologizing, and started to go through my things. I begged him to let me keep the map, but he said I wouldn't need it anymore. Sandoval undid the handcuffs and locked me in the back seat of his Jeep, white with green stripe running through the side. An iron mesh separated the back seat from the front. We drove off down the street with houses on both sides. He asked where I was from. Guanajuato, I said. Where is this place? Wilcox, Arizona. There is a place nearby that the Mojados call La Perra Flaca. Not far away. That's where I was trying to go. Is there any chance you would take me there? He didn't reply. Where are we going now? To Tucson, to the Pima, County Detention Center for Juveniles. What will they do to me? What will they do with me? Hard to tell, it all depends. Please, I begged. Sorry, he said. No more conversation. We were soon on a highway, 2 lanes in each direction, then 4. As we approached Tucson, the traffic was heavy. Alongside for a minute or two was a sleek gold car with a bunch of kids inside. The driver was a boy, barely older than me. The girl in the front was talking on a cell phone. Were they Mexicans? Could they be Americans? Whatever they were all laughing and having a good time. As they sped off, I could still hear the throbbing bass notes of their music. I pictured Rico with his brother on the same highway, in an even richer car. Ronaldo was in the car business somehow, as well as cleaning swimming pools. I wondered if Rico was already here. It wasn't like him to be unlucky. Tucson was nothing like the El Norte I was expecting from TV at Rico's house. The desert city stretched all the way to the mountains with houses that looked Mexican, only much bigger and fancier. I saw a few swimming pools from the highway. I even saw one being cleaned, but I didn't see Rico. Thoughts of Rico only made me feel worse. For me, there was nothing but disappointment and defeat. As Sandoval drove into a huge compound fence with chain link and razor wire, I pictured how it might have been different back at the lake. What if I had asked the Gabacho for a ride? I might be finding work right now, sending money home soon. He might have taken me all the way to La Perra Flaca. I would never know.